Hey, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to the Gemini channel. My name is Laura. If you're new to my channel, I'm going to do a general message for Gemini. Know that energy is fluid, rules could be reversed. Just interpret the message as it best resonates with you. Also know on this channel and all my channels, I like to dive deep within the reading. So I look at everything, but we take time to look at the spiritual blocks, the shadows, to see how they play out as karmic themes to help you understand why everything's playing out the way that it is, right? When we attract people into our lives that aren't nice to us, right? When we say, well, I was nice to them, we want to know, why does that happen if we are magnets of who and what that we are? We're not mean. We don't treat people badly, right? I mean, doesn't logically make sense. Well, the thing is, spiritually, we attract things that we need, not what we want. So we can want love, but it's attract people that, are going to show us that we're not lovable. And you'd be like, well, why is that? Well, if you don't love yourself enough, and now you might say, oh, I feel like I love myself enough. But if you grew up in a certain environment, if you were only introduced to certain things, it's just ignorance that, well, you didn't know what your other options were, right? So if you haven't lived enough life, but those traumas are still there, then there's still a part of you that sees yourself through that perception. So embodying a new consciousness is what actually solidifies the healing. Otherwise, the healing doesn't really exist because you're an energy being, yes, but you're in physical form for a reason, and that's to learn and to manifest. Most people don't see a new consciousness. They don't get to see themselves differently. They don't get to see the situation differently. And that keeps them stuck on an energetic level because we, again, remember the experience. We may not remember everything in the experience, but we definitely remember how that made us feel. So how do you manifest? Through the thoughts that you think and the emotions that you have, right? So again, you're the alchemist of your life. So the readings, again, are going to look at everything, but we are going to look at those karmic cycles, those blocks to help heal. Because guess what? Once you heal, a lot of times you don't even have the connection to the person anymore, or you change so much now that person has an attachment to you because, again, they might be someone that's an avoidant, and the moment that you detach from them, then you can't get rid of them. Like, once you change, you automatically change the dynamic of the connection. It's understanding how. All right, anything of any importance or relevance to the channel is in the description box. If you resonate, give it a like, comment, be interactive with me. I love it when you guys are. All right. And if you resonate with if you are connected to a Virgo or Scorpio, check out those other card placements. I have to say, there's a lot more happening. All right, let's see. The underlining energy is intuition. Intuition. And let's pull one more. But obviously, ESP through the heart and mind. Intuition, someone's trying to intuit whether or not you're around. You may be, again, feeling the same thing. Criticism. So you're in separation from someone right now that I feel like is trying to use their intuition to see whether or not you even like them anymore. I feel like this person doesn't know you've been in separation from them for a while. And I think with you for a long time, yes, you had a strong spiritual connection to them, but if they come into your life, you'll be definitely utilizing your discernment, because there's a part of this person that you just don't trust. Again, the spiritual connection, knowing and wisdom. Again, the sacred geometry, the dove, again, tells us that. So what's held this connection together is the fact that this person, I feel like, never had a connection like this, a spiritual one, where, you might have, but like I said, this person tends to logic everything. I feel like I say that because that spiritual connection can really push a person into obsession, and because they can't control it. There's this feeling of connection, but there's also a sense of wanting to control, and you can't control. So what happens is person's like obsessed, and they're obsessed because I feel like they know that they didn't treat you right. They wouldn't be in a place of grief. We're going to see exactly what they did, but know that this person tends to, have like the attachment style relationship, and this attachment style relationship are ones that, I don't want to say that they have the upper hand, but if emotionally you're the one that gets connected to them and they're not giving as much on an emotional level, well, it becomes more of an attachment, like more of like need. And so I feel like, again, this person, we need to look at the spiritual cards, because it's like when a person has a lot of blocks, they're going to be all over the place, which is, I have feelings for you, but they're still in their ego. They're still in their ego, because the person that really cares, they don't care whether or not you're going to say whatever you're going to say to them. You know, they don't hide behind an illusion of who they are. See, they wanted to send you a message today. See, that's why I'm saying, but they are afraid to. Again, they don't know if you want to hear from them, which is what I said right in the beginning. We don't know what they did, but we know that they disrespected. The thing is, it's like this person feels like they see a lot of synchronicities. They see a lot of deja vus. This is spiritual language. So when a person has never had a relationship like this before, it kind of seems magical. Where again, this person says, well, like, it amazes me, like when we think the same thing, or can finish each other's sentences, or that there's this familiarity. Now, they might not share that with you, but it's something that's internalized them, and it triggers the spiritual connection, which again doesn't logically make sense. But the thing is, this person doesn't really, they don't know how to communicate. So the thing is that the energy becomes stagnant, because I'm not going to do anything. I want you to do something. I want you to react. I'm not going to do anything. And most of the time they can get a person to react, right? Because after a while, it's like you want to figure out what's going on in the relationship. But this person's like triggers happen to break the stagnancy and help the energy flow again, which means that a trigger is, I'm going to come into your life and not really handle things the proper way, because I don't want to be transparent. I don't really want you to see that I'm vulnerable, but I don't like the fact that you're not talking to me, and I can't control how I feel, because this is a spiritual connection that overrides again, it's not going to logically make sense. And so what you're seeing is a person that, like, again, their actions are in alignment with that truth. It's again, I want to know everything about you, but I hold myself back from asking. So they again don't want to get too deep. I don't want to be that vulnerable. I'm afraid, which again means that they're coming from past experiences, where again I feel like they're afraid that this relationship is too good to be true. Like there is no such thing as a connection that's like perfect, like this type of connection. Well, again, where it's a spiritual connection, it can feel perfect, right? As a past life connection. But the problem is that this person has a lot of spiritual blockages. But the connection to you is supposed to really, help them heal specific patterns from their ancestral bloodline, and vice versa. That's why it's an important connection. It's a past life connection that has this hold. Those are old wounds that you're born into them. You're born into that covenant. You're born into that vow. And so part of that is that this person probably doesn't believe in love, never believed in love. That's why they're like, there's not possible to have a relationship like this. That's so good to be true. Like once you get to know me, you won't want to stay. It's again, which is why this person projects their own fears and limitations onto you, because it's like, I don't do that. I'm not saying that. It's like, no, this person thinks that the relationship is too good to be true. So they always look for problems, you know, basing like the relationship on past experiences. So you're always going to be there. But again, it's the underlying wound that whatever they grew up in. So they might have grown up like watching their parents be in a horrible marriage, where one person had all the power, the other person didn't, trust, intimacy was completely shot. You weren't allowed to be vulnerable. You weren't allowed to show your emotions. It's all these patterns that continue to play out within a person's life, which is why the universe eventually brings them a spiritual connection, which is like, this doesn't make sense. I want to control it, but I can't control it. It's like, it's what they're seeing, but inevitably what it does is it brings them to a place of, I know I need to release attachments with karmic people. So they're either in a connection or connected to somebody that they don't really love. It's just, again, it's a karmic attachment, and that karmic attachment is the fact that this person's codependent. They're either codependent emotionally, where they don't feel strong on their own to actually be in a relationship without having someone at home, or they stay in connection because they feel guilted, they feel responsible, they feel like they have to, and that could be because of religious beliefs, it could be because of their parents, it could be, doesn't matter. Is that this person like is like they're living fragmented for somebody else. So it automatically says that, this person doesn't love themselves as much as they should, because when we stay in a relationship like that, it's like, obviously this person, it doesn't mean that they're not running around and cheating and talking to other people and getting their needs met other places, but it's like it allows this person to stay in a very low vibration. You come along, you're a soulmate connection that requires them to step into a better version of themselves. Otherwise the relationship obviously doesn't work, which, again, this person doesn't believe that it could be so true, but that's because they've lived in relationships where they go for lower hanging fruit. If I don't give anything, who am I going to be with over time? No one that loves themselves is going to be with someone that gives them actually nothing and treats them like crap, right? Where this person is like, because of whatever they witnessed growing up, gives them a license to be able to do that. Where it's like, you're like, I'm not going to do that. And they feel like, well, I don't care. But guess what? They do care. It's like, but knowing how to handle it is, again, they're not going to give into fear, but they are giving into fear. Because again, they that fear is just an illusion. So they know that it's to be true. They know that the relationship is up to them, but it's like they don't trust themselves. And it says it, I'm realizing this connection is something special and worth treasuring, because again, if there's a spiritual connection, it's like it doesn't logically make sense to them, but it's that it's real. Now, when a person comes from a lower vibration and they're full of shit, guess what? They usually attract people that are full of shit too. That people that, you know, want to use them also for what they can do. If they want to keep the relation surface and only keep it there, that's why this person never cared. It's like this relationship is different. It's like, because emotionally they've got invested, and I don't think that they thought that they could, because they've lived shut off for so long. So it's like they were numb to it. They were detached. To see, again, as twin flames, we are here to ascend and help others to do the same. They want to let their guard down, but fear makes them lash out in self-defense. And you better believe there's a lot of other behaviorisms that come out from that, because again, to protection is a protection mechanism. So part of it is with twin flame connection, it doesn't mean, well, guess what, you get to be happily ever after. A lot of times the person stays in your life for a lifetime. They just come in and out of your lifetime. You change. A lot of healing for twin flames is done in separation, but the whole point is that they're learning that love is unconditional, real love. This is what it looks like. You don't have control. It makes you want to be a better person. It makes you become less selfish. So is this person 100% there? No. But as long as they feel you pulling away, well, it's going to trigger them because, again, they've lost you in past life. And, these past life connections come up and it creates a lot of pain. And it doesn't, again, logically make sense. Well, the catalyst for it is I long for, like the passion, which is again that lower energy when the person hasn't stepped up to the twin flame level, which again, they're not there yet. And the reason why is because they've been so grounded all their life. So it's hard for them to trust the spiritual elements of the relationship because they're like, I don't even know what that is. I've never experienced anything like that before. What does it mean? What does spiritual elements mean? Does it mean that you have more power over me? What does it mean? This is what this person's like. It's like they have to put some logic towards it because guess what? It might not look good on paper. Which usually spiritual connections don't. They don't logically make sense. So it's like I shouldn't even like you in accordance to like my paperwork here. It's like you don't fit any of the criteria. And so God's showing this person that like, you don't have control. It's not up to you. Understand, Spirit says, clear the illusions of the 3D world. Don't take everything at face value. There's a lot more going on spiritually and energetically than you can see because it's changing this person. It's making this person look at themselves and it doesn't logically make sense, which is why, and this person's very logical. They're very analytical. They're very like, what I see is what I believe. Just the facts, this way emotionally, they don't get caught up, but there's an emotional connection, which again triggers them. So it makes no sense because why do I want to stay connected to someone that makes me mad? That makes me feel inadequate. And that's because it's changing them. And that's the thing that this person is saying is I need to be strong in who I am before I can merge with your energy and the 3D. I'm afraid I can lose myself in the relationship. And of course they can, which is because they don't really have an identity. And that's what spirit showed them. It's like, what are you doing? It's like you're not like you have a connection to someone and you're playing games. Like, what are you doing? It's like, but understand if you would have caved to this person and not realize that this person was projecting a lot of their bullshit onto you and would have stayed there and been like, let me fix it, let me fix it, let me fix it, you would have eaten the karma. Because again, even though they want to be twin flame, their energy was still past life karmic mate until they step into their true individuality, which spirit says, and part of it is just a spiritual thing that whether they want to go through it or not. And that again is because it's all internal, which makes this person actually be like, what is spiritual? Like, what does it all mean? That doesn't mean that this person never went to church. They might have went to church, but what does that have to do with like our connection? What does that have to do with all of it? And it's like because they're ignorant, and they're ignorant. Spirit says you seem logical, analytical, very stupid when it comes to spiritual. It's like very smart when it comes to making money, very smart when it comes to other things, but not smart in that element. So the twin flame is always gonna be opposites attract, right? Is always going to be like the yin to the yang to the yin, to break that other half. But so it's an uncomfortable energy a little bit, which is, it doesn't make sense. It's uncomfortable. I don't like you, but I also like you. Like it sounds like makes the person like crazy. And so this person can't just shake it off. It can't be replaced. And so that's the thing. But it's inevitable for the twin flame to bring the healing. And that's what it's doing, where Spirit saying you're not a spiritual person. You're not emotionally intelligent. And, you're this. Because the twin flame holds up the mirror in the beginning. I know I was a distraction from your pain, so that this person like recognized I you wouldn't have hung around me. You wouldn't have put up with it if you didn't have blocks. This person's grateful for the spiritual lesson because they love you unconditionally. And that's what the twin flame connection teaches. It's like, I don't like you. It's like because you bring awareness, you bring pain, you bring that, but I love you unconditionally because I can't control it, which is what this person sees again firsthand. This is what unconditional looks like. So, on some level, the fragmentation comes from not being accepted, not being loved, not being so, which is why they won't be vulnerable, which is why I am not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to let you in. So they have the whole point. The twin flame connection makes this person say, this is what it looks like. You're safe. This is what it's so. And this person intuitively understands it's not a logical thing. They get stuck in the logic, they get stuck in the survival mode. So that's what it is. So does it bring energy? Absolutely, because when you clear spiritual blocks, it gives you that energy and that excitement that this person can see things from a different perception, like what love actually feels like almost like when you're a kid and you like somebody, like, oh, like I wonder what it's going to be like today, you know. I want to wear my outfit today, whatever it is, like finds themselves like in that energy, which is not their normal energy. Their normal energy is like, again, very masculine, very, even if they're a girl, just, very like logical, very like, meh, just ugly energy, like boring energy, I should say, which is why, again, that illusion, that second chakra is becomes more of an addiction and not really the relationships through intimacy. So again, where this makes this person want to have that type of relationship, which doesn't make sense. And all they know is that, hey, in order to be in this connection, it's time for them to heal because the relationship is not going to work the way that they are. But again, inevitably, intuitively, they begin to understand what the connection. So it's a very spiritual connection. And that's really what it is. This person is becoming a better person, which is the whole point of the twin flame, for both parties, believe it or not. But we see from this person's perception, hey, it's not like they're not battling the ego. The ego is not just going to come down. There's a lot of habits and behaviorisms that were built on survival. Emotional survival. Was it safe to be vulnerable? No. This person was like, no. So, they hide who they really are from you. So, actually, having to let you in and really see who they are is terrifying because, again, fear of abandonment. But what does it is the fact that this person has unconditional love. It's like, and that is the energy of God. That's the energy of spirit. That's the energy of the universe. And the universe always gets what it wants. You know what I mean? You can't go against it, which again is what doesn't make like things logically make sense, which is why this person replays, conversations in their head and they wish they could take back certain things that they said, you know, um, they look for you everywhere, hoping to like maybe I can bump into you, um, and that their life really isn't what it said they make it is. It's not as perfect, and that's really what it is. They couldn't let you get close to them because hey, I have feelings for you. Like if it was surface and it was fake, then hey, it didn't work out. It doesn't work out. But the spiritual connection that I don't really understand, that I could really lose myself in this connection, which everybody knows I normally have the upper hand in relationships, is again terrifying. But it's not that there isn't a spiritual connection. There is one. It's making this person change, but change isn't overnight. And that's what spirit's saying. So a lot of healing is done in separation, but at the same token, there's the longing, right? There's the imagination. There's this passion. It doesn't even mean that you both don't date other people. It's again, a lot of times you do because it's like, I want to get this person out of my system. And the whole point is that you learn unconditional love. That hey, it's messy, it's sloppy, it's hard, it's separation. It doesn't logically make sense. You wrestle, and at the same time, all these feelings and all these emotions from like childhood resurface, which is again maybe feeling abandoned, maybe not feeling loved, maybe feeling neglected, feeling again all these energies that need to be integrated for you to find success, not just within relationship, but within your life. Because God says, I really don't care whether you're with that person or not. I care whether or not you evolve back into your original energy of unconditional love. That's what I care about. So that you can go with the flow of life and just always be in the passion for life. This connection shows you that where the healing needs to take place. A lot of times, twin flame energy isn't even together for very long, because it's a very difficult relationship. And a lot of times you can be together for years and years and years, but wind up being in separation for a lot of that time. And so we look at the inner child wounds because you have to say, well, we always have to look at the fragmentation first, like where did it come from? And then we look at the other wounds. So what you'll see is unworthy, neglect, anger, time and attention, physical touch, which I represent the emotional connection, support, the spirit says wonder. So those are your inner child wounds. So obviously, like if you grew up in an environment, like let's just say your parents were working all the time, they just worked all the time and they had to work hard, and you were taught that support was something that was hard because you watched the way that they worked and they were not happy in their jobs, and you were pretty much taught, hey, there's never going to be enough money, there's never going to be. We're already coming from a place of lack. And when a parent feels that way, they emotionally can't really show up for you the way that you kind of need them to. It's like when you're a child, because they have issues around money, they have issues around, not feeling supported. So, our parents, they come into their marriage with their wounds, right? And these wounds, a lot of times, are passed down. So, the lack of support, that's anxiety, it's other things, like I said, but bottom line is neglect. And that neglect made you feel unworthy, where again, no support, no, like we always see, like father like son, mother like daughter, right? It's like that support. So not having that time and attention, that there's parts of you that you don't know who you are, is what spirit's saying. It's like that space, you're not trauma, you're not, again, feelings of unworthy. However, did you live in experience where you felt that way? Yes. And it's the experience that you perceive that you went through, and then that emotion that you felt, which is how you manifest, right? So the thoughts that you think and the emotions that you have, you already know that that has happened, so it can happen again. So the fear of not being supported, the spirit's saying, it's that underlining energy that created bigger wounds for you to then have to integrate. Right. And it would be, the spirit says, the heart chakra. We'll read it after. Then the codependency wounds, lack of purpose, and for some, religion trauma. So again, what you were taught. I'll pull one more, and one more will be a mother wound. So we always have to look at the wounds. Like I said, like what continues to play out. And to me, like, if you have a mother wound, that like your mother is the parent one that's supposed to nurture, supposed to be the one that gives you that emotional support. So if you don't have that, didn't have that connection, then of course your heart would be kind of taught to not be as open, right? Like when we have a closed heart chakra, it makes it difficult for us to trust. It makes us difficult to give and receive of love as your free will. It's how you become the expression of love. And but if I don't feel safe, because every time I give it, people again they devalue it, they treat me whatever the perception is. It created the block. So again, show up as difficulty giving and receiving of love, emotional isolation, holding on to resentment, leaving you feeling disconnected from others and yourself. It may manifest as struggles with forgiveness, lack of compassion, or fear of vulnerability in relationships. And again, that's trust. To be able to be vulnerable is to be your true self. But if you grew up with a parent that, like they said, hey, they didn't give time and attention, they didn't nurture you in that way, they might have showed you love in a different way, but the way that you needed, again, not a blame game, but we have to understand where the wound came from in order to integrate it. So the mother wound really tells us a lot because it shows up as deep longing for nurturing, approval, and unconditional love, which you weren't taught what that looks like, which is why the twin flame comes into your life. But if you're not taught that, imagine how many habits and behaviorisms that you have that are sabotaging to you because you're not coming from your worth. Because, hey, you don't even know what that feels like. You're going to look and perceive what it should look like, instead of being taught, again, forgiveness and unconditional love. It means that, hey, you love the person even though they're acting like an asshole. I mean, like this person, spirit says, let me bring in this person. See how they act like an asshole, and they piss you off, and they're your twin flame, and but they're like acting like that. That's again unconditional love, because it's like I love that person anyway. And spirit says, well, that's what it's supposed to look like for your mother. Again, that unconditional love, where you might be like, I am having a hard time of forgiving. And spirit says, well, as long as that happens, you're going to be in a place of self doubt, fear of rejection, difficulty trusting and caring for, not just other people, but even yourself. So we have to integrate the mother wound. And that's otherwise you can stay codependent. And codependency shows up as relying too much on other people for validation or even support, often neglecting your own needs. And then that's the irony. You neglect your own needs to overgive to other people and then expect people to give you back. And then it winds up being like victimization. So again, you feel like, that you don't have boundaries then, and feeling unworthy of love unless you're constantly giving. Like, which again, remember, if that's the way you got love as a kid because mom and dad wasn't giving you that nurturing unless you were helping out or doing, that's where it first came from. And so, not that it's a blame game, but we have to understand where the wound started. All right. So then what happens is if we're, too busy caring about what other people, what other people perceive and that acceptance from other people, well, then we don't really know who we are enough. It's like, again, we don't feel comfortable even in embodying who we are without the approval of other people. That's going to be a problem because eventually you're not going to want to do what everybody else wants you to do because it's always a spiritual test, believe me. It's like, so it shows up as, feeling empty and feeling confused. And that makes it very easy for a person to come into your life and, show you a version of themselves that they want you to perceive that they are, but they're not. And spirit says, you'll then over time, they steal your energy where you begin to feel unmotivated and just like questioning your path and questioning, like, what's the whole point? of life. And Spirit says, where, if you grew up with that, a mother wound, then that's what would happen too, because of why am I even here? Why am I even here? And Spirit says, you're not your experiences. So you attracted a person into your life that made you feel as it was difficult for them to love you, pretty much. Which, by the way, would make it like impossible then for you to feel vulnerable, for you to actually get what you want in a relationship, even though that there's this connection. It's not enough. And Spirit says, because again, a lot of times the twin flame, a lot of it happens in separation. And that means you do date other people and you do go along your very way for a bit. And so Spirit says, again, you have to take a leap of faith, take bold steps out of your comfort zone. Risks are going to be rewarding. So Spirit's saying, yeah, part of you, again, is settling for less when a person doesn't treat you right because it might be familiar. But that familiarity is not a good familiarity. It's like you had to live a certain way prior. You don't need to now. Relationship's all about equal give and take, reciprocity. So going into the unknown and seeing who you meet and seeing, you're going to come more from who you are, not an expectation of who someone else wants you to be, is what Spirit says. It's like right now it's all about living authentically. uh, don't be afraid to live, like, be true to yourself, because that's how you are going to attract people that are more in alignment with who you are. That's what's going to open up your heart chakra. You'll be able to give and receive of love. So you be the expression of love by being authentic, because that's what the universe responds to, not again a version of you that someone else wants you to be. And part of you might say, I don't really even know who I am. And Spirit says that's the whole point. If you don't know who you are, you'll never attract anybody that's going to treat you well. So it's about going into the unknown and finding who you are. That means join things, you know, uh, let your spirit guide you, and without saying, oh, this caused me, oh, I'm tired, oh, this. Spirit says what you'll see is your mind will try and talk you out of it. It's like when all I'm asking you to do is go out and find yourself, because you evolve and change all the time. But if life doesn't change at all and it's always the same thing, that's because you're the same. And so Spirit says, I'm teaching you to have faith. In the wilderness is when the Israelites had to, live on faith, which meant that every day while they were in the wilderness, they had to rely on God for food. And they just got just enough food, not a cracker more. It was just enough. And so faith is that. It's a faith walk. It's like you don't know, but you're being led by a passion, by, again, something that inspires you. Then you become yourself by creating yourself, by feeding that energy. And it takes a life on of its own, so that your cup is full all the way, so that you're emotionally giving yourself, so you don't expect someone that doesn't have anything to give to be able to give it. This person that didn't know. It's, again, this is about you, like, persevering, because you're trusting that the universe is going to give, and that's a scary thing. It's a very vulnerable thing. But again, Spirit says you need to be true to yourself, be authentic, find yourself. Again, and being true to yourself, it's an unfoldment process. It's not going to feel comfortable to you, but doesn't need to. You're going to be by yourself for a while that happens, because friendships might be falling out of your life, situations are changing, but it makes room for the new people that are more in alignment with the energy of who you are today. Remember, if you grew up in a certain environment where you were made to feel not loved and where you couldn't be vulnerable, well, you don't just evolve all at once. Life, but you get tests along the way. This person was a test. You're like, I deserve more. And Spirit says, yeah, so give yourself more. That's what I'm telling you to do, to create more. And that's within that root chakra. And that's connection to the earth, connection to support. Mother Earth and Father up in heaven works through you, that you have to reparent yourself. And what you see is support comes through your friends and through the new tribes that you meet and the experiences, but you'll be tested, like I said, along the way. And so Spirit says it's all about being true to yourself, because the universe responds to what's true, what's really like what your heart is really holding on to. And it's all to help you let go of who, you were made to perceive who you were. That's not who you are. If you grew up in an environment where you didn't get love or felt like you didn't get love and, you know, didn't know your worth, it's Spirit says that's not who you are. You might have had to live that reality, but now it's about, creating yourself. You get a story of who you think you are, then there's a real story of who you truly are. This way, you build a relationship with you and your creator by becoming yourself, where it's a faith walk, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears, but you're meeting people along the way that are going to fulfill you, that are going to emotionally fulfill you. This way, when a person comes into your life, you hold to a standard. Spirit's saying right now it's like you're like an island to yourself. You're not supposed to be an island to yourself. You're supposed to be able to go out and feel free and attract someone that's gonna enhance your good positive energy. And so right now this person would have made you settle. So just because past life connection, and they are like a twin flame, they're going through their process, but they're not there yet, is what Spirit says. So you have to use discernment. And part of, the runner chaser dynamic changes, where it, like one time you might have wanted this person and you're like, I don't really want you now. It's like, because, hey, as you evolve, you're not going to want this person. And then that energetic shift happens. And that's when the runner now becomes the chaser, because they're like, oh shit, they get triggered with the abandonment, like, oh, you're not going to be here. It's like, no, you're not, because guess what, you're being exposed to like live in faith, but that means live your life, date people, like meet people again, like the support's going to come through that, not who you thought. And the illusion is, well, they were my twin flame. Shouldn't they have done it? Yeah, in a perfect world. It's like, but they brought out in you that you don't need anybody to do it. God says you didn't need them to do it. You want them to do it because, hey, there's a lack of you doing it and there's a lack of anything. But you do it for yourself. You don't need them to do it. And then they automatically want to do it. Why? Because you get what you don't need. I don't know. It's like it's God's way of making you do it. It's like he's saying you don't need it. It's the illusion that you think that you need it. You don't need it. There's nothing that you need. It's again, have gratitude that you're aware of the light in your life, that you direct your thoughts to the beauty in and around you, that you give thanks to God for every little thing that brings you joy, that you enlighten your thoughts, riches surround you, and that you appreciate all that life brings you, that you, again, don't need it, is what Spirit keeps saying. It's like about time that you recognize your goodness. And it was a time to overcome your imperfections, polish your character, and feed on the positive. And that you free yourself, allow your goodness to manifest and become a source of joy. Again, you don't need this person to emotionally fulfill you. Through gentleness, you offer unconditional support and understanding and love to yourself and to others. And that is why, again, with that you don't need anything, that you're ascending life. This person represented like, well, shouldn't they have done it? Yes, in a perfect world, they should have done it, but they're on the level that they don't do it for themselves. They expect it the same way that you would have expected it. And, they're not going to do it because vulnerability and transparency are not this person's forte. But again, as you disconnect, this person integrates the spiritual lessons. Now you might be like, I don't want them. And Spirit says that's usually rare that when they do come back, when you don't want them, because you learn also like forgiveness, which is what Spirit says you have a mother wound. So it's like what you're going to see is that you're going to forgive this person because they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that that happens. And so that might take a long time, but this person is again going to do it. And eventually, because there is still a connection, and what you're going to see is I do have unconditional love for this person, even though that they don't deserve it. And Spirit says, well, that's what unconditional love is. They don't deserve it, but you love them unconditionally, and that you can't turn it on, you can't turn it off, and that's what it looks like. We tend to hold to an expectation to be like, well, I think that it should look like this, and a lot of times it should, but the person usually is going to do what has always happened to you in the past to bring up whatever the wound is. So if you've always had support, then the person you're going to wind up with a person that always supports you. But if you felt like you never had support, well, that's the reoccurring karmic theme where Spirit says, well, you know what? You're your own support. You don't need it. It's like, and once you don't need it, that shows that you're sexy and you're like, again, and you become, it's more of a threat because now the person says, well, they don't need me. Person that needs, well, they hold a lot of power then. You show that you don't need, which is what Spirit said. This person needs to come back when you don't need them. It's like and that shows through emotionally. I don't care. I fill my own cup up. And trust me, if you're coming in with that cheap grapefruit juice again, you could stay the hell out because someone brought in the champagne. And I'm drinking like 1922 champagne over here. It's a limited edition. And don't come in here with cheap juice. It's like, you got to come in with something because I'm filling up my own cup and it's filled up with stuff that I want to drink, not your cheap crap that you bought from the Dollar General store. It's like you have to come in with something that I like. And it's like, and that's the whole thing. And Spirit says the person needs to see that. Otherwise, they're like, let's see if I can come in and give less. Where you're like, why would you do that? And that's because that person's lazy and they're in a lower vibration, not for any other reason. It's like they need their healing, not your problem. Spirit says, remember, twin flame holds to a certain standard. I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for sharing your energy with me. If you like the video, give it a like. And until next time, be true to you. Remember, you teach people how you want to be treated by how you treat yourself. Bye-bye.